Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching CCN Crown City News, your neighborhood. I'm Larry Hygh Jr. Sunita is all celebrating the birth of her healthy little baby boy, Ashton Lucas Joshua Madison, born right on time, July 29th. Congratulations, Sunita, and we'll look forward to her coming back. We bring you a CCN special today about Proposition 8 and invite you to join us live by calling 626-794-2116 or on twitter.com/Crown City News or facebook.com/Crown City News. We'd like to know your thoughts on the recent judge's ruling that overturns the Prop 8 vote in November 2008 to ban gay marriage by changing the California state constitution to include the definition of marriage as between a man and a woman. With us here in the studio is Bill Hacket from the Pasadena Democratic Party, a local attorney against Prop 8, and on the phone, Dr. J. Edmonds in favor of Prop 8. Thank you for being here with us in the studio, Bill, and thank you, Dr. Edmonds, for being with us on the phone this evening. Let's begin by asking, what is the definition of marriage?
Well, marriage is basically a commitment by two individuals to share a household, to share responsibilities, and that love one another and that are in a committed relationship. So it's two individuals in a committed relationship. Okay. And those two individuals can be two women, two men, could be a man and a woman. And
Dr. Edmonds, how would you define marriage?
I would define marriage, actually, if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
I would define marriage actually as between when it comes down to from an anthropological standpoint, between a man and a woman, simply because of the factors of procreation, which are elements that are inherent within any biological entity. Now, in the sense of marriage as a joining, well, that is applicable as well. Any two things can be married or joined together, but it all goes within the construct of that which is regarded as norm, or that which is regarded as being acceptable within a sense of that which is common relative to our makeup.
Okay. So we have two different definitions of marriage here. And want to just follow up with another question for Bill here in the studio. Why should gays be allowed to marry?
Well, basically, marriage is a fundamental right. And the court in this case, in Perry versus Schwarzenegger, found that to deny that right to marry to gays and lesbians is a denial of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the Equal Rights Protection and the Due Process Clause. And due process is that, all individuals are entitled to due process to life, liberty, and property. And basically, the court found that there is a fundamental right, and that this right does not infringe on any other group, does not infringe on opposite-sex married couples. There's no infringement there, and that this is a fundamental right, and it's protected. It's similar to, a number of years ago, Loving versus Virginia. There was a case decided by the U.S. Supreme Court, and many states had banned interracial marriage. Commonwealth of Virginia had banned interracial marriage on many similar grounds, and they said that it would harm marriage if a white person and an African-American person would marry. And those same arguments were made in the past, and it was ruled unconstitutional, and that was 1967. Okay. And it took to the year 2000 for the last state, Alabama, to take that off their books. So this is a continuing movement towards rights for gays and lesbians, and it's not harming any other individuals.
Okay.
But I would take issue with that, Bill. As far as Perry v. Schwarzenegger is concerned, the American Foundation for Equal Rights did get a victory, in that landmark case. But let's go back to two things here. The first thing, you brought up a comparison relative to the civil rights issues as far as blacks marrying whites. Take into account that those were two of opposite sex, not of the same sex. While the principle may be somewhat generically sound, I believe that you're making a precipitous leap from speculation to fact. I will also bring up that there are some repercussions relative to this proposition as well.
What do you see as those repercussions?
Well, I would say that, number one, in schools, for example.
What about schools?
All of those school districts would have or will be required to teach children grades K through 12. That same-sex marriage is equal in every way to traditional marriage. Now, in my opinion, this would actually be a flagrant infringement upon the individual as well as collective rights of a parent or parents to, autonomously reinforce their distinct and preferred value in regards to this matter. Also, churches may have their tax-exempt status challenged or revoked if they publicly oppose same-sex marriage or refuse to allow same-sex marriage ceremonies in their religious buildings open to the public.
Can I take issue with that? Because absolutely there is no evidence whatsoever that this would be taught in schools. And that was the argument made. And in fact, I was married 2 years ago when the court ruled that it was legal in the period between June and the time Proposition 8 was passed. No one has been taught about my marriage or the 18,000 other marriages that took place in California. So that's absolutely not true. And those were the scare tactics that were used in the campaign against gay and lesbian people, that, somehow we are such horrible people that if anyone learns about a marriage between a gay man and another man, that somehow this is a danger to children. And I just think that that's just so improper and incorrect. And I think that needs to be corrected. And those were the arguments that inflamed this. And one of the reasons why the judge found the gay and lesbian people are a suspect class and are treated differently and are subjected to hate. And a lot of this whole campaign was because of moral disapproval. And the judge said moral disapproval alone is an improper basis in which to deny rights. There was moral disapproval years ago. There were cases in California. There was a case where years ago they actually passed a proposition that said in California that individuals could refuse to rent or sell a home to anyone. It was specifically targeted at African American citizens. It was an amendment of the Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution ruled it was unconstitutional based on equal rights and equal protections under the 14th Amendment. So I think these claims that somehow we somehow have an agenda or we're trying to influence children are absolutely incorrect.
I did not really say that. I don't think it came across that way. If it did, I'm very sorry about that. What I was saying and what I will continue to say is that if this, in fact, is acceptable from a civil standpoint or a public standpoint, then obviously there will be an awareness of this position from the standpoint of that which is advocated or that which is taught or that which is spoken just in general among those who are within the school system. And obviously that will trickle down to our children. Now, if it's allowable to become a part of a curriculum, whereas it's not only just whereas it's taught to respect marriage and committed relationships, but it goes beyond that without showing bias regarding sexual orientation, then I think that is an infringement upon an individual's as far as their rights to reinforce their values with their children. Similar to, I don't want to get into this, but evolution, or if some disagree or agree with evolution, or any of those kinds of things that are being taught in school. I am not trying to defame any particular group, and certainly I'm not trying to say that gays and lesbians are horrible people. That is not what I'm trying to say. Now, I think you did raise a good point, however, Bill, that it seems to be a civil issue rather than a moral issue in the eyes of the courts. And that within itself goes without saying. I think most of the opposition as it relates to the defeat of this proposition came from those who have specific moral and religious positions.
So you're seeing this as a moral and religious position. I think Bill has basically been talking about fundamental rights. So where do you draw the line? And we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about where do we draw the line between the moral issue and the fundamental issues surrounding Proposition 8. And also want to take a look back at what voters wanted with gay marriage in 2008 when we come back. You're watching CCN Crown City News, your neighborhood. Don't go away.